Good morning, Heaven Bound family, and all that may be listening. This is Pastor Larry with a moment in the Word. Today is actually the 23rd, but yesterday I didn't get an opportunity to do a devotion because my computer was messing up, and I was trying to get the Sunday morning message and the Sunday school processed, and had a problem with them, plus I had to be out of town. So this morning we'll do the 22nd, which was Monday, and then we'll also try to get later the 23rd, which is Tuesday, which is today. And so hope you had a good Monday and hope you're having a good Tuesday. But we're down to the 11th chapter of the book of Revelations, and I want to cover the first part of the chapter there, which deals with the measuring of the temple and the two witnesses, and then we will look at the last part, verses 15, I believe it is, through 19 for today. So what I'm saying right now is yesterday's devotion and Monday's devotion, and then we'll do Tuesday's devotion later this morning. Let's look at it. It said, and there was given me a reeve like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple, leave and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months. Now, he is going to speak of 42 months. He's going to speak of 1,260 days. He's going to speak of all of these equal out to, when you consider that a month was 30 days in Israel's calendar, then each of these measures out to 3.5 years. So we're talking about the last 3.5 years of the tribulation period. Keep in mind, all of this is what is going to happen. John saw it back probably somewhere around 96 AD and wrote it, but he's writing about things that are yet to happen. Evidently, John is back on earth now, and because the temple is on earth. The temple there that he is measuring is not the temple that Herod built. You remember there were three temples prior. We had the temple that Solomon built back around 900 BC. We had the temple that Zerubbabel and Joshua built around between 536 and 516 BC. And we had the temple that Herod built around, I believe, 2 BC, I believe it was, right around then. Anyway, it was the temple that Herod built was, of course, the temple Solomon built was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar in 586, some say 587. The temple that Zerubbabel built was destroyed, I believe, by Antiochus Epiphanes, when the Greeks was in control, and then the temple that Herod built was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD, about 26 years approximately before when John wrote this. So this temple that he's measuring is none of the three previous temples. So what temple is it? Well, if we go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 4 there, Paul speaks of the fact that there will be a temple built during these last 3.5 years. Probably, as we've said before, Satan is going to make a covenant with Israel, according to Isaiah chapter 18, and he will build the temple, and then in the last 3.5 years he will enter into the temple, and he will sit there, and he will proclaim himself to be God. We come down to verse 3. He says, and I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,263 days. That's 1,260 days, or 3.5 years. They will be clothed in sackcloth. These are the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. If we go back to Zechariah chapter 4, Zechariah prophesies of the fact that when Arhetel is actually not prophesying, he is just telling what had happened, a vision that he gets in 536. Cyrus of Persia allows Zerubbabel and makes him governor, and Joshua, a different Joshua than Moses' day. This is Joshua. He's a high priest. They will come down back from Babylonian captivity to Israel. If I'm not mistaken, they bring nearly 50,000 people with them, and they will come down and they will rebuild the temple. Some say they rebuild Jerusalem. Not so. Jerusalem won't be built again until Nehemiah comes down around 445 BC under the decree of Artaxerxes. But anyway, Zechariah gets a vision of a lampstand, and above it a olive branch, and the olive oil it feeds the lampstand, and of course the lampstand then the lamp gives light. And so when he's talking about here, he's referring back to the fact that Zechariah, or not Zechariah, but Zerubbabel and Joshua are types of these 2 witnesses, and that's what he means by the fact that the 2 olive trees and the 2 candlesticks. We read about that in Zechariah chapter 4. Well, they are a type of these 2 witnesses. In other words, these 2 witnesses has come to give light to all who will hear them during the last 3.5 years. It says, and if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouths, and devoureth their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. Now, the commentators that I have read seem to indicate that a fire is going to come out of the mouth of these 2 prophets. That's possible. God can do anything God chooses to do, any way God chooses to do it. But if we go back to 2 Kings chapter 1, 2 Kings chapter 1, the king of Israel is going to send a captain and 50 men out to capture, if you will, or lay hands on Elijah, to bring Elijah down to him as a captive. Elijah says, if I be the man of God, may fire come down and consume you. And fire came down and consumed the captain and the 50. Another captain and 50 more came out and again told Elijah, you're under arrest. Basically, we're taking you to the king. He wants to see you. And that each one of them referred to Elijah as the man of God, and Elijah said, if I be the man of God, let fire come down. And so twice this Elijah called fire down. And so very possibly when it says here that he destroy fire will come out of their mouths, it's like it was in Elijah's day. Jesus, when Jesus comes back again, he's going to destroy the sword. Is going to come out of the sword of his mouth. And of course, there's not going to be a sword there sticking out of Jesus' mouth, but the sword of the Lord is the word of God. Jesus is going to speak it, and it will be. And so very possibly when it talks about fire coming out of their mouths is that they're going to be able to call fire down upon any who would hurt them. Who are these 2 witnesses? There's a debate there. Some believe, I think everybody would agree that one of them is Elijah. Some believe that the other will be Enoch, because Elijah and Enoch never died, and it's appointed that a man wants to die. Others believe it's Moses, Elijah and Moses, which is probably more correct. And we can get a hint of who it is from their description here. Verse 6 says, "And these have power to shut up heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy." If you go both to 2 Kings or 1 Kings chapter 17, Elijah is going to declare to Ahab that the heavens are going to be closed up for 3.5 years, same length of time, so that it rains not. And after the 3.5 years, he will tell Ahab, okay, it's going to rain. He goes and prays 7 times. And on the 7th time, God sends the rain. James speaks of it. He says that in James chapter 5, he says Elijah was a man of like passion as we are. Yet he prayed that it would not rain for the space of 3.5 years, and it rained not. And so since Elijah was able to call fire down, since Elijah was able to shut up the heavens so that it rained not, then we can detect from verse 6 there that Elijah is going to be one of the witnesses. Another reason why Elijah might be, is the fact that it was Elijah who had never died. Remember, he was taken up by the whirlwind when the chariot separated him from Elisha. And then notice it says here, they have power over water to turn them to blood and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Moses did both of these. He turned the water into blood, and then he also brought down the 10 plagues there that plagued Pharaoh there in Egypt as he was rescuing the children of Israel from Egyptian bondage. And so one other thing is that on the Mount of Transfiguration there in Matthew, it is Elijah who represents the prophets and Moses who represents the law that meet with Jesus there on the Mount of Transfiguration in glorified bodies, and they're going to talk about Jesus' death and no doubt about the tribulation that's going to come up on Israel. So anyway, because for these reasons and others, the 2 witnesses is probably going to be Elijah and Moses. It said, "And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit," this would be the beast we'll meet him in chapter 12, and this is the first time he's called a beast, "and will make war against them and shall overthrow them and kill them." There's a wonderful truth here is that these 2 witnesses are invincible. Nobody can touch them until they finish the work. The Romans put Paul in jail in Philippi. They put in jail in Rome. And each time either God released him through the earthquake or through the emperor. And not until Paul says in 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 6, is the time of my departure at hand. I'm ready to be offered up. Why? For I have fought the good fight. I have kept the faith. I have finished the work that God has for me to do, or finish my course. And so as long as the man of God is doing the work of God until he gets finished, then he is invincible. David Livingstone said the same thing when asked, was he not afraid to go back into the jungles of Africa? David said he was invincible until the work God had for him to do was completed. Wonderful truth that we as saints today can hold on to. It says, "And their dead bodies shall be in the street of the great city, and spiritually, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified." We have a hint here of the total collapse of any morality. what is going on in Jerusalem at this time during the last 3.5 years will be the same thing that went on in Sodom. The same thing that is going on in America today, by the way. And then the other thing is that which was happening in Egypt. In other words, Jerusalem, what is going on in Jerusalem in the last 3.5 years is the sins of Egypt and is likened unto the sins of Egypt and the sins of Sodom. And therefore, God is about to bring judgment upon it. The two witnesses, because they finished the work that God gave them to do, they preached and shone light upon Christ for the last 3.5 years of the tribulation period. Now then, their body is allowed to lay there. They are so despised, so hated because of the truth that they revealed to those who didn't want to hear the truth. The Antichrist, the false, the 10 kings, the people. And so they are finally killed, and their bodies is left laying in the street, which, by the way, was a curse in Israel, to leave a dead body just lying there unburied. And David Jeremiah points out the fact that this is going to be, we can only imagine how much further technology will be advanced so that everybody in the world will be able to see these bodies laying there in the street. And they so hate these two witnesses, they so hate the truth that they were speaking, that when the two were finally killed, they rejoice. I think it was David Jeremiah said like they had a martyr Christmas. In other words, they said they even sent gifts to one another, rejoicing because these two witnesses was no longer proclaiming to them the truth. But after 3.5 days, God is going to call them up to heaven. Life will come into them. They will rise up. Everybody will see it and will fear. And the two angels will then be raptured, if you will ascend up to heaven. It says here in a cloud. Again, Dr. David Jeremiah points out that in the Greek, it doesn't say a cloud, it says the cloud, as if it was the very cloud that Jesus will come in all of his Shekinah glory there. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. The second woe, you remember, is the 6th trumpet. The 7th trumpet will involve the last 7 vials or bowls that God is going to pour out upon this earth. We'll look at that tomorrow. Right now, have a blessed day, and go forth and worship God today. Bless someone, it'll bless you. It'll bless God. God will bless you instead.